A story about trust, motherhood, and the meaning of choosing to care. That evening, I wasn't planning to rescue anyone. I was simply taking a quiet walk, the kind of walk people take to clear their minds after a long day. The street was almost empty, the lights dim, and near the end of the road stood an abandoned building that looked forgotten by time itself. As I passed by, something caught my eye. A small shape moved in the shadows, half hidden near a cracked wall at the edge of the empty house. At first, I thought it might be a cat, but as I stepped closer, I realized it was a dog. She didn't bark. She didn't run. She stood still, tense and alert, her body slightly lowered, her eyes locked onto mine with a sharp, guarded expression. There was no aggression in her stance, only caution, the kind that comes from living too long in uncertainty. When I looked closer, I understood why she was standing that way. Behind her, tucked deep into the darkest corner of the wall, were her puppies. Tiny, fragile bodies pressed close together, barely moving, relying entirely on the thin figure standing between them and the world. The mother dog positioned herself firmly in front of them, as if her body alone could shield them from any danger. She didn't know who I was or what I wanted, and in her experience, humans were not always something to trust. That abandoned place offered no real safety, no steady food, no warmth, and no protection, yet she stayed. She didn't leave. She didn't run away to save herself. She chose to remain there, guarding her puppies with everything she had. I stopped where I was and didn't move any closer. I knew that forcing my presence would only make things worse. I waited, keeping my distance, watching her chest rise and fall as she breathed heavily. It was clear she was starving. Not the kind of hunger that comes from missing a single meal, but the deep, exhausting hunger that builds up after days of having nothing. I reached into my pocket and took out a sausage. I gently placed it on the ground and stepped back. She didn't rush toward it. Instead, she looked at me, then at the food, then back at me again. For a few seconds, she hesitated. Turning her back to her puppies, even for a moment, meant taking a risk. But not eating meant growing weaker, and if she collapsed, her puppies would have no chance at all. Hunger finally won. She moved forward slowly, grabbed the sausage, and swallowed it almost immediately, as if she hadn't eaten properly in a very long time. Something changed after that. Her body language softened just a little. She didn't retreat as quickly as before. When I offered more food, she came closer, cautiously, step by step. I stayed calm and patient, letting her decide the distance. Trust wasn't forced. It was built quietly, one small moment at a time. Eventually, she allowed me to come close enough to see her puppies clearly. They were smaller than I expected, likely only a few weeks old. I didn't touch them right away. I knew how easily everything could fall apart if I moved too fast. I stayed low, spoke softly, and waited. At one point, she no longer stood directly in front of me. She stayed near her puppies, watching carefully, but she didn't block me anymore. That was when I knew she was beginning to trust me. One by one, I gently picked up the puppies and carried them to a safer place, a small shelter that offered protection from the wind and cold. Each time I moved a puppy, the mother watched closely, but she didn't interfere. When I turned back, she followed me on her own. No leash. No force. Just quiet acceptance, as if she had decided that following me was safer than staying behind. When we arrived home, the first thing I did was feed her properly. I gave her biscuits and milk, carefully, knowing that a weakened body can't handle too much food at once. I prepared soft porridge for her puppies and wrapped them in warm blankets. The mother dog didn't eat greedily. She kept stopping, turning back to check on her puppies, nudging them gently with her nose, counting them again and again as if to make sure none were missing. No one taught her how to be a mother. She had no guidance, no help, only instinct and responsibility. Over the next few days, I watched her closely. I saw how she slept curled around her puppies to keep them warm, how she lifted her head at every unfamiliar sound, and how slowly, day by day, her body began to relax. She started sleeping more deeply, stretching her legs, breathing calmly. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe. A few days later, I made another decision. I knew there were other puppies out there, abandoned, with no mother to feed them. I brought home a few of those orphaned puppies, unsure of how she would react. There was no guarantee she would accept them. When I placed them near her, she sniffed them carefully, observed them in silence, and then, without hesitation, allowed them to nurse. There was no rejection and no aggression. To her, they were simply lives that needed warmth and milk. The puppies adapted quickly. There was no fighting, no fear. They slept together, ate together, and grew together, forming a family bound not by blood but by care. Watching them made me realize something important. Caring for animals isn't just about feeding them. It's about commitment, patience, and responsibility. It's about choosing not to walk away, even when it would be easier to do so. The mother dog who once stood defensively in a dark corner is no longer tense or afraid. She lies peacefully among her puppies, calm and content. A life that began in fear and abandonment has found stability and warmth. This story isn't about heroism. I am not a hero. I was simply someone who chose to stop, to look, and not to turn away. Sometimes, saving a life doesn't require extraordinary effort. It only requires compassion and the willingness to care. Now, every time I see them sleeping quietly together, I think back to that abandoned wall and the moment our paths crossed. One person walking away could have ended everything. One small act of kindness changed the outcome. Even lives that begin in the darkest places can become peaceful, if someone is willing to offer them a home.